Murder and rampage know no borders.
On the Moscow terror attack, even as the rescuers cleared the debris at the Moscow concert hall.
Russia has charged 4 men for the attack on Friday that killed at least 137 people in Moscow attacks. The Islamic State in Khorasan province, ISISK, has claimed responsibility, while Russian President Vladimir Putin has blamed Ukraine. Putin is just coming off another election victory and has long promised the country security. Will the worst attack on civilians in Moscow in more than a decade have an effect on his power? Or he's just diverting the people's minds until he gets to the real culprits? What US, France, and Ukraine has to say about the attacks? Let's uncover the questions in this video and know about the details of Moscow attack, so be with us until the end. It was March 24th when Russia faced a horrible attack after decades. Until then, 4 suspects accused of killing more than 137 people in a terrorist attack at a Moscow concert hall appeared heavily beaten as they were charged by a court in the Russian capital. Photos and videos released by the court showed the 4 men being led into the courtroom with various levels of injuries. 3 of the men had visible bruises and swelling on their faces, including one with heavy bandaging around his right ear. The 4th seemed barely conscious as he sat inside the prisoner's box dressed in a hospital gown and on a wheelchair, with his eyes closed for most of the hearing. Looked like he wasn't conscious enough. It came after images showing the suspect's violent treatment in custody were shared widely across Russian social media, and as President Vladimir Putin vowed revenge, but made no mention of the Islamic State group, which claimed responsibility for the deadly attack. The Basmany District Court of Moscow named the suspects as Dalerjan Mirzoyev, Saidakrami Rachabalizoda, Shamsuddin Fariduni, and Muhammad Sobir Faizov. 2 of the 4 had admitted their guilt, although their condition raised questions about whether they were able to speak freely. All 4 were charged with committing a terror act and could face up to life imprisonment. The suspects were ordered detained until May 22nd by the court. 7 more people were detained on suspicion of involvement in the attack. All 4 are citizens of ex-Soviet state Tajikistan. The suspects had to use a translator to communicate in court. NBC News analyzed footage shared over the weekend by Russian pro-war Telegram channels that showed at least one of the suspects being tortured, and others violently interrogated and injured. NBC News was able to authenticate the footage by comparing it with images of the suspects as they appeared in court on Sunday. In one video, suspect Saidakrami Rachabalizoda lies on the ground in the woods while a man hacks at Rachabalizoda's ear with a knife, before stuffing part of his ear into Rachabalizoda's own mouth. Videos also show suspect Shamsuddin Fariduni being interrogated on the ground in the woods as a man holds Fariduni's head up by his hair. The men are accused of perpetrating the worst terror attack Russia has seen in the last 20 years, killing at least 137 people and leaving dozens injured. Videos from inside the Crocus City Hall on Friday night showed several armed and masked men shooting at people inside the venue, seemingly at random. The venue also caught on fire after an alleged explosion, leading the roof to cave in. The detention hearing for the 4 suspects came as Russia marked a national day of mourning on Sunday, and people continued to bring flowers to the burned-out site of the attack. Putin claimed Ukraine's involvement in preparing an escape route for the suspects before they were captured, an accusation Kyiv has strongly denied and said was being used to distract from his own security failings and raise support for intensifying his military campaign. In a sign of the burning mood among Russian officials and beyond, a leading Kremlin propagandist offered an approving nod to the signs of torture, and others called for the perpetrators to face the most severe punishment, with some even reviving calls to bring back the death penalty. The head of Russian state broadcaster RT, Margarita Simonian, said on Telegram that I never expected this from myself, but when I see how they are brought into the court crooked, and even this year, I feel extremely satisfied. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry S. Peskov, declined to comment on the torture allegations of violence on the suspects' faces during their court appearance and the videos of alleged torture circulating online. But former President Dmitry A. Medvedev, who currently serves as the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, said, "Well done to those who caught them." He further wrote on Telegram that, "Should we kill them? Yes, we should, and we will. But it's more important to kill everyone involved in the attack. All of them. Those who paid, those who sympathized, those who helped." Putin himself indicated in his address to the nation nearly a day after the attack that there would be no mercy for those bloody massacres. He further said that terrorists, murderers, non-humans who do not and cannot have a nationality face one unpleasant fate: payback and insensibility. The Russian Defense Ministry said that border servicemen who helped detain the 4 suspects in the Bryansk region, near the borders with both Ukraine and Belarus, received state awards for their bravery. Moreover, many people around the world, including Russians, already knew what had happened to them. Since Saturday, videos of the men being tortured during interrogation circulated widely on social media. In what analysts called an apparent retaliation for the concert hall attack they are accused of committing last Friday, which killed at least 137 people and injured 180 more. How the videos of torture began circulating was not immediately clear, but they were spread by nationalistic, pro-war Telegram channels that are regarded as close to Russia's security services. Though the horrible clips were not shown on state television, the brutal treatment of the defendants was made clear, and the decision by the Russian authorities to showcase it so publicly in court, in a way they had almost never done before, was intended as a sign of revenge and a warning to potential terrorists. Ms. Sadovskaya said, "There were 2 intentions to circulating the videos. First, to show people who could plan another terrorist attack what could happen to them. And second, to show society that there is revenge for all that people suffered in this terrorist attack." Before we proceed further, discussing what international law has to say about these tortures, what were the views of French president on these attacks, and predictions of US had really helped Russia, if suggestions were taken seriously, I'd like to hear from you. Are you finding this video informative? Feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the comments section below. And if you're finding it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and helps us reach a wider audience and the content that you'll love. Let's continue this journey together. International surveys have shown that societies tolerate violence against people they perceive as the worst offenders, including terrorists, serial killers, and perpetrators of violent crimes against children. This shows that the state and authorities demonstrate that violence is acceptable, that they normalize the torture of a certain subject. The black and white legal finding that torture is a crime, a fundamental aspect of international human rights law, came under pressure in the US after the September 11th terrorist attacks. So the military commissions that dealt with cases at Guantanamo Bay had to take into account that some of the evidence was tainted by torture. Indeed, the judge in the case of a defendant almost entirely ignored the fact that he was in a wheelchair in an open hospital gown, a plastic container holding urine from his catheter in his lap. The only time the judge acknowledged it was to order 2 doctors, accompanying Mr. Fezov, removed from the courtroom with the rest of the public when he closed the hearing. Mr. Soldatov, the security services expert, said that it is important to say, torture is not normal. Torture as a phenomenon should not exist. The cops and the state today torture a terrorist. They see approval of this method, and tomorrow they will torture an activist, journalist, anyone else. They don't know any other way. The US had warned Moscow earlier this month of a possible attack in Russia aimed at large gatherings before issuing a public advisory to citizens in the country. The alert was roundly dismissed by the Kremlin as propaganda and an attempt to meddle in its presidential election. It would not be the first time IS and its allies have attacked Russia or its interests abroad. The group claimed the bombing of a Russian aircraft over Egypt in 2015 with 224 people on board, most of them Russian citizens. It also claimed a 2017 bomb attack on the St. Petersburg metro, which killed 15 people. Security analysts say the group considers Russia a primary target for a number of reasons, including the country's role in destroying IS's power base in Syria while securing President Bashar al-Assad's rule, Moscow's 2 brutal wars in Muslim-majority Chechnya in 1994 to 2009, and the Soviet-era invasion of Afghanistan. ISISK frequently criticizes President Vladimir Putin in its propaganda. While apart from the court hearing, French President Emmanuel Macron said that the information is available to us as well as to our main partners, indicates indeed that it was an entity of the ISIS which set off this attack. And this group also tried to commit several actions on our own soil as well. France raised its terror alert warning to its highest level on Sunday, the 24th of March after the shootings in Moscow. But Putin ignores ISIS and leans into the Ukrainian side. Putin said some people on the Ukrainian side had been prepared to spirit the gunmen across the border. After these allegations, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Putin of seeking to divert blame for the attack by mentioning Ukraine. Macron further said that, "I think that it would be both suspicious and counterproductive for Russia itself and the security of its citizens to use this context to try and turn it against Ukraine," while adding that France had offered cooperation to help find the culprits in Moscow attack. Putin said 11 people had been detained till now, including the 4 suspected gunmen, who he said had fled the concert hall and made their way to the Bryansk region, about 210 miles southwest of Moscow, to slip across the border to Ukraine. But soon after blaming Ukraine for these attacks, Russian President Vladimir Putin told senior officials, "We know that the crime was committed by the hands of radical Islamists, followers of an ideology that the Islamic world itself has been fighting against for centuries." But he also insisted that the attackers were linked to the Ukrainian government. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky angrily said it was absolutely predictable that Vladimir Putin would blame it on Ukraine instead of dealing with his Russian citizens, addressing them. What do you think that would Russia follow the international law for not torturing the suspects anymore, as they're already seeming to be unconscious? While Russia has been supported by many of countries, including its allies as well, but the loss for Russia is too big. Furthermore, let us know your opinions in the comments section, and don't forget to share the video, and click on the subscribe button as well, for remaining updated of the current trends in geopolitical world. And if you liked this video, then you'll also like our previous video on US and French troops being threatened to leave Niger. Link for that video is mentioned in the description. You can watch by clicking on it. Until next video, stay tuned.